All right, so now we're looking at chapter 4. These are the pioneers of teaching and learning. Okay, so I've maximized it. Remember, you can maximize it, you can write on it, you can go through the slides. There's 11 objectives. Okay, so we have two opposing theories, right? We have the child depravity theory. This is where children are born with an inclination to evil. So they need, right, an authority figure in the classroom telling them what to do, what not to do, punishment, rewards. Then we have the naturalistic theory. And this is where people believe that children are naturally good and instruction should be developed on natural development. And so we have Johann Amos Comenius, and I'm totally going to mispronounce his name, but he is from Moravia, and Pacifism was what he was sharing. And so here's the timeline for that. Now, this isn't talked about much or even shared much in typical schools, so we want to look at it closer. But basically, he saw the need for education as well as, right, where is the church going to fit into this? And so here is a video that kind of explains it more because, like I said, there isn't a whole lot of information on this type of theory. So some of the principles that he had were to use objects or pictures, organize information around everyday experiences, be direct and clear, emphasize general knowledge and the shared natural environment. Sequence information, and then do not move on until students understand. And then came Rousseau. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and here is his timeline. So he is, right, we see Discourse on the Origins and Foundations of Inequality of Men. Emile is going to be the book that's focused on for education. And in Emile, Educating the Natural Child, so right, he believes in the natural progression. These are his stages that he formed. And so first the infant constructs reality, and then the child sees or develops their self-identity through pain and negative consequence or positive consequence. And then we have the kind of early teen, they're learning through experience. Then the older teen, they're learning more about the world and society. Then early adulthood, they need to travel, broaden their intellect, get cultural. And then they marry, cycle repeats, and so forth. So this is Rousseau's book kind of explaining these stages. So then we have Pestalozzi, who's educating the whole child. The mind, body, emotions is sometimes called holistic type. And educating children with special needs was a focus, as well as kind of using object lessons. So here is Pestalozzi teaching. And like I said, holistic teaching, mind, body, emotion. So begin with a concrete object. And then he also focused on teaching special needs students and the poor, those who couldn't afford higher learning at the time. Herbert, so this is systemizing teaching the principles. He believed in education, schooling, preparation, presentation, association, generalization, applications, lots of Asians, but this was kind of his progression. Froebel, the kindergarten movement. So this is, right, the children's garden is where that word came from. So they would focus on preparing the environment, looking at the gifts, kind of focusing on occupations. Then came Spencer with his social Darwinist. So social Darwinism is fittest individuals. Remember, Darwinism is kind of an evolution theory. And so we have fittest of individuals, but this time for each generation would survive onto the next. And this could be the fittest physically, fittest mentally, but that was the social Darwinian theory. Utilitarian education focused on skills and subjects that people would encounter. Like, you have to utilize the skills that you're being taught in education. So either utilize it in every day, in your career, or to help maintain or function in society. Dewey, so experience, right? Children should develop coordination, and opportunities should be based on the student interests. And students should be stimulated to formulate and examine and test their ideas. So he's the one that came up with a precursor to our modern scientific method, right? The child encounters a problem, something they can't figure out. They need to locate and define the problem, reflect on what they already know, maybe research, and then construct possible solutions, test those solutions to the problem. That was the basis of Dewey's scientific method. So again, here's a video kind of visualizing what his method looks like in experiential learning. So here are his learning levels. Oh, I have a typo. How embarrassing. Okay, so making and doing first, history, science next, or history and geography next, and then the sciences would be last. But there's no English, so it's okay. I think I could get away with the typo on that one. All right, Jane Addams, yes, a female. So we have socialized education, multiculturalism, social justice. She was free from gender bias, so that's what she promoted, and she wanted to infuse current technologies, whatever they were at the time. Maria, another female, Montessori, another advocate of the prepared environment, so the teacher's preparing the environment for the learning. Practical activities, sensory activities, and self-correcting, so that way the kind of student can be nudged to the right course. And also viewed school as a part of the community, so it kind of contributed to society. Piaget, so you're going to hear about him a lot. He's the developmental growth. We have, this should look similar to what we've already seen with the stages, but we have sensory motor, so that's young, toddler, babies. Pre-operational, young children. Concrete, operational, so they're getting concrete on what things do, how they function. Then formal operational, you're getting more analytical and analyzing things. Okay, so here is another video on Piaget's learning theory, or the cognitive development theory. He also came with constructivism. So constructivism is where you explore, you experiment. Instruction should be individualized to what the student interests are. And the classroom was a learning center. So there's like pods for learning, pods for experimentation, for play. Kind of like the children's garden, right? But now the classroom is a learning center. Not the traditional rows and tables, but groups or pods. And then we have liberation pedagogy. This one, I put the do you agree because, right, this is kind of getting into politics where we might be polarized, where the classroom is aware of social, political, economic conditions and contradictions. This pedagogy argues that teachers should take a stance on social justice issues. Previous ones just said they should be involved or kind of be aware of them, promote students to get involved. This one is saying that teachers should take a specific stance. So think about that. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are we teaching students to be free thinkers if we're telling them which stance to take? All right, different opinions on both ends of the spectrum, but this could be something that you want to look into in one of your future papers.